Hello everybody. This is the first presentation based on the text English for Career. We'll be looking at Module 3, that is Reading Comprehension. So today we'll be looking at Passage 6 of Module 3, the Passage 6 that is given in your text. So the first two slides of the presentation will have the text of the passage. Since many of you may not have the text with you, I'll slowly read out the text. Okay, and also remember that this is the first step in reading comprehension. You need to read the text or passage very carefully so that you get all the main points. So now on to the text. Passage 6. Over the weekend, India attempted to make history by becoming just the fourth nation to successfully land a probe on the moon. It came agonizingly close, but after journeying millions of kilometers, the Vikram lander lost contact in the final few hundred meters and crash landed on the lunar surface. But it would be both unfair and plain wrong to label the mission a failure. After a postponed launch, India's Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft began its journey to the moon on July 22nd. On board, it carried the Vikram lander and Pragyan rover, equipped to search the lunar south pole for water and other valuable resources. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. Chandrayaan-2 completed several orbits around Earth and then the moon, slowly making its way closer to the lunar surface and taking photographs the whole time. On September 2nd, the Vikram lander separated and began to make its descent. All communications were normal until the lander was within 2 kilometers of its goal. Then it went silent, a space engineer's worst nightmare. So far, the Indian Space Research Organization's engineers have not been able to re-establish communications with the lander. It's likely Vikram landed with enough force to damage its communications equipment as well as other instruments. But all hope was not lost as Chandrayaan-2 remained in orbit above the moon and with its high-resolution camera was able to spot the lander. If oriented favorably, Vikram could still manage to power itself up. ISRO has not admitted defeat and will keep trying to connect to Vikram for the next 2 weeks. However, the chances of success diminish with time. While the Chandrayaan-2 mission has not gone as expected, it cannot be called a failure. The Chandrayaan-2 orbiter will continue to monitor the moon for up to 7 years, and the high-resolution images it takes will be vital to future international efforts to land on the moon. So this is the text, and I hope that all of you had been listening carefully and were able to take the main points from the text. Now let's take a look at how you can understand the passage. Remember that reading comprehension is a relatively easy exercise, and from the examination perspective, it is something that will fetch you a lot of marks. So you need to just follow a few instructions in order to reap the maximum benefit from these exercises. The first point is obviously to read very carefully. I just read out the passage aloud. You don't have to do that. Especially if you are sitting in an examination hall, you cannot read it out aloud. Okay, so you just have to read it very carefully and jot down the important points. If you think that you cannot write everything down, just underline or make small marks whenever you see an important point. Then you can try to visualize. You can try to get the images inside your head, because once you have the images corresponding to a particular point, it is easier for you to recollect a particular point. Then you can make connections. You have one major point, the launch of Chandrayaan. Then you can connect that to how the Vikram lander landed or descended with a lot of force. Then you can connect that to how the mission was not a complete success. So try to make logical connections between the points. And finally, and most importantly, think before you answer. Don't rush into an answer. Double check to make sure that your answer is correct. Like I told you, in a reading comprehension passage, you just have to take the answers from the text that is given to you. So it is extremely easy to find out the answer, but don't rush into an answer. Just make sure that what you are writing is correct. Now we come to the first part of our reading comprehension exercise. We gather all the important points. So this passage or text is about India's lunar mission, about how Chandrayaan-2 was launched on July 22nd, how it had Vikram lander and Pragyan rover. The function was to search the lunar surface, the moon's surface, for water and other valuable resources. Then another date is mentioned, September 2nd. It was on September 2nd that Vikram lander began its descent. But unfortunately, communications were lost. The ISRO engineers couldn't establish communication. And we come to the conclusion that Vikram lander might have damaged its communications equipment on its forceful descent. Chandrayaan-2 continued its orbit and it was able to spot Vikram lander through its high-resolution camera. And ISRO engineers are still trying to connect to Vikram lander, but the possibilities are rather remote. The author concludes by saying that you cannot see or perceive the mission as a failure because all the images, all the pictures taken by Chandrayaan-2 by using its high-resolution camera will be extremely useful in India's future lunar missions. Let's take a look at the questions now. Those of you who have the textbook, please take the passage so that you can look at the passage and the question simultaneously. So the first question is a multiple choice question. It is worded like this. The phrase agonizingly close in the passage means option A, so close as to cause fear. Option B, so close as to cause pain. Option C, so close as to cause disappointment. Option D, none of the above. So this phrase occurs in the first paragraph. Look at the second sentence. It came agonizingly close, but after journeying millions of kilometers, the Vikram lander lost contact in the final few hundred meters and crash landed on the lunar surface. So the ISRO engineers were waiting eagerly and suddenly the Vikram lander lost contact in the final few hundred meters and it crash landed. So obviously the result must have been a huge disappointment. They were waiting eagerly for something to happen, but it didn't happen. So the answer here is so close as to cause disappointment. The second question is again a multiple choice question. What is a space engineer's worst nightmare? Choose the suitable option. Option A, to face failure in a mission. Option B, to face the media after its failure. Option C, to lose connection with the launched vehicle. Option D, to be fired. Okay. Now look at the passage before you answer, because depending on the space engineer you can have n number of nightmares. Okay, so one man can say that my worst nightmare is to face failure. Another person can say I don't want to face the media after failure. Another person can say I don't want to lose connection with the launched vehicle, and yet another person might be really scared of losing the job, of getting fired. But here in the passage they have made it extremely clear. Okay, right towards the middle you have the sentence, then it was silent, a space engineer's worst nightmare. So here, look at the sentence before that. All communications were normal until the lander was within 2 kilometers of its goal. Then it went silent, a space engineer's worst nightmare. So here the correct answer is option C, to lose connection with a launched vehicle. The third question is again a multiple choice question. Which word from the passage means reduce? The four options are damage, re-establish, descent, diminish. Of all the four options, diminish is the most suitable option because it has a word meaning of reduce. This word diminish occurs in the second last paragraph. Look at the last sentence. However, the chances of success diminish with time. The chances of establishing connection with Vikram lander, it reduces with time. It goes down with time. So the correct answer here is diminish. The fourth question is, identify the statement which is true. Option A, Chandrayaan-2 mission was a complete failure. B, Chandrayaan-2 mission turned out to be insignificant at the international level. C, Chandrayaan-2 cannot be of much use to future endeavors. D, Chandrayaan-2 can gather vital information about the lunar surface. So of all these four sentences, you need to find out which one is true. First is Chandrayaan-2 mission was a complete failure. That is not true because the author says that it wasn't a complete failure. You can look at it as a partial success. Option B, Chandrayaan-2 mission turned out to be insignificant at the international level. That is again false because right at the beginning of the passage you have the sentence, India attempted to make history by becoming just the fourth nation to successfully land a probe on the moon. So it was a very significant mission at the international level. Third option is Chandrayaan-2 cannot be of much use to future endeavors. That is again false because towards the end of the passage, the author makes it very clear that the pictures taken by Chandrayaan can be of great use in India's future lunar missions. Option D is Chandrayaan-2 can gather vital information about the lunar surface. Vital means important. So that option is the correct option. That is true because Chandrayaan-2 can indeed gather important information about the lunar surface. So the correct answer is D. Now you have questions where you are required to answer in a sentence or two. So the fifth question is, what was the Pragyan rover meant for? Look at the second paragraph. On board, it carried the Vikram lander and Pragyan rover equipped to search the lunar south pole for water and other valuable resources. So you can answer by saying that the Pragyan rover's function was to search the moon's surface or the lunar surface, or if you want to be very specific, the lunar south pole or the moon's south pole for water and other resources. Remember, you should not try to copy the exact sentence from the comprehension passage. Try to make it in your own words. Question number 6. What reasons do scientists propose for the disruption of communication with the Vikram lander? Look at the paragraph that begins like this. So far, the Indian Space Research Organization's engineers. In that paragraph, look at the next sentence. It's likely Vikram landed with enough force to damage its communications equipment as well as other instruments. Okay, so you can say that when the Vikram lander made its descent, the impact was rather forceful, so its communication equipment might have got damaged. Or you can say the forceful landing of the Vikram lander on the lunar surface might have damaged its communication equipment. Now we move on to question number 7. What do scientists hope to do in the coming weeks? Look at the second last paragraph. ISRO has not admitted defeat and will keep trying to connect to Vikram for the next 2 weeks. So the scientists will try to re-establish the communication with the Vikram lander. That is the answer. You can write it as a scientist have lost communication with the Vikram lander, they will be trying to re-establish the connection. Question number 8. What can the Chandrayaan-2 orbiter do? That question's answer can be found in the last paragraph. The Chandrayaan-2 orbiter will continue to monitor the moon for up to 7 years, and the high resolution images it takes will be vital to future international efforts to land on the moon. Okay, so the Chandrayaan-2 orbiter will continue to monitor the moon and will take high resolution images for the next 7 years. These images will play an important role in India's future lunar missions. That is the answer. Now we have 2 questions where you cannot find the direct answer in the passage, but you can find the answer by reading the passage. You will not find a corresponding sentence in the passage, but you will get the meaning after reading the passage. Question number 9. Does the author assign blame for the partial failure of Chandrayaan-2? If you read the passage, you will understand that the author does not blame anybody, but says it was just an accident. It just happened incidentally. So the answer can be no. The author does not blame the ISRO, but instead, the author chooses to focus on the positive aspect of the mission. Question number 10. Does the author end on a positive note? Explain. Okay, so just go through the passage or read the last paragraph and you'll understand that the author ends on a positive note because the author is focusing not on the Vikram lander and the lost communication equipment. Instead, the author is focusing on what all Chandrayaan-2 can accomplish. The author is talking about the images that can be taken and how these images will be crucial in our future lunar missions. So the answer is yes, the author ends on a positive note and states that the mission is a partial success. The author points out that Chandrayaan-2 can monitor the lunar surface and send images that will play a key role in India's future missions. So that's all for now. I hope all of you are familiar with reading comprehension exercise. In the next classes, we will be looking at a lot more passages. Okay, thank you.